Right, back again, doing some more sketching and Photoshop stuff, and rather than doing cars for a bit, for my latest fun personal project, I've been doing some architectural stuff, designing a building and blah blah blah, just for a break from drawing cars really. So I've done a building, now I need to fill it. So I need to make some chairs and stuff. So I've just been doodling this, and I thought, why not give this a nice little render in Photoshop. So this is kind of a lounge chair. It's not a desk chair, so it's just a proper lounging, read a book maybe. So that's in Sketchbook. Just going to dive into Photoshop. I've opened it in Photoshop, as you can see here. Straight, just saved out PSD from Sketchbook. It's brought in all the other layers I did, or I'll show in a minute. But because I'm just too lazy to sort it out, my resolution from Sketchbook is, I think it's my screen size, which is 2040 something or other. But I always like to render everything at 4K, so I just do File New, so Control N or Command N. I'm going to pick 4096 by 2160 at 300 dpi. Create, and I'm just I'll duplicate all this over. So so now I'll render it at the higher resolution. So you can see the difference, big difference. I'll just close this down. Okay, so let's just grab the two layers that make up that chair and make it nice and big. And I'll just make them red, bottom at the top. So just to walk you through it, I started literally doodling. Sorry, Facebook is going off. Just doodling real quick, did a few lines, thought I don't like that, so I stopped drawing it. Did a few, didn't like it, stopped, carried on. Then again, just kept on looking at silhouettes and shapes. And then, as you can see, a lot of them are garbage. Saw this on Pinterest. I don't know who's done it, but it's a pretty nice chair. So I thought that's a bit of inspiration. So then, with that in mind, I started just trying to find a nice perspective, and I quickly just thought that looks crap. So carry on. Then I started to get to this, and it's really abstract and vague, but kind of there was something in the character of that which I quite liked. And then I was thinking about like almost deck chair. Again, it's like literally a 5-second doodle, and I thought it's not working. Give up. Clearly didn't like that, so I gave up. Then I did this one, which kind of, the perspective on it is crap, but the idea of something splitting suddenly sparked something. And then the proportions of this is horrible. It's all nasty. It's horrible. But there was something in the idea of the seat being split down the middle that I quite liked. And then I doodled that. And it's weird how I did all those layers in the space of about 5-10 minutes of just crap. Because I'm so used to muscle memory of drawing cars all day long. Doing a seat, oddly, is quite challenging. To make it look cool. So I went through all that of drawing these terrible perspectives to then suddenly thinking, right, let's go back to car mode, put my brain in car mode, and then boom. So yeah, literally just like that. And then I did another layer on top where I've just gone round the edges with a bit of line weight, and that's it. Park that. So now I'm just going to delete all that. I'm just going to merge those down because eventually I'll get rid of the sketch. I'm going to tone it down as well. So I'm just going to render it. We'll just see how it goes. So, gradient. Background first. Always do my background. I'll click on the gradient option for that. I'll click on dither. Gets rid of all those lines in the gradient. If you've watched all my videos before, I apologise if I'm repeating, but I kind of doing the video as if no one's ever watched any of my videos before, so I'll just explain everything like I normally do. So I'll stick with the dark, because once it's nice and bright it might look quite cool. We can always change it later on. So I'm just going to delete this background layer by default. Don't need it. Got my gradient. That's all I need. So I'm real quickly just going to path out using the pen tool the base of the chair, so the legs that it's sitting on. And I'm literally just doing point to point, I'm not worrying about the rads yet. So that's pen tool. I'm now going to use the convert point tool, which I've set in my keyboard shortcuts to O, just because it's right next to P, so I don't have to even move my finger. And holding space bar down, command and space bar, or control space bar, I can zoom in and out. As soon as I let go, I'm back on the tool I had already, which in this case is convert point tool. And literally click and hold, and I can just move that around. And ignore the red line for now. I'll change that in a second. For those of you watching the video for the first time, sorry again if I'm repeating myself for everybody else who's already watched them. My pen mode, so the pen tool, isn't set to path or pixels, it's set to shape. And the shape is a vector, so it's vector based. Hence why you can see me moving this around and it's all updated on the fly. So I don't have the traditional way of doing it is by default people just seem to use path tool, which means you end up with paths panel, which is normally buried in here somewhere, but I never use it, but I'll show you anyway. Normally you make a path, and no matter what you do, you can't fill it or stroke it. You can obviously move it and add points and do what you normally would do, but it comes in as a work path. Now to be able to draw within that, I'd have to select that tool, and then you can do a new layer, you can draw inside it and whatever, or you can stroke that layer depending on your brush size. So you'd have to go in, you'd have to be like, oh, I want this brush size, I want to do it like this, and then you'd have to stroke it, hope it's the right size. If it's not the right size or colour, let's change it to a colour so you can see that. Then you'll be like, okay, but once you've done it, that's it, it's done. So if I move that path, which is in the paths panel, so it's not on a layer or anything, it's just a path panel. You can see, oh crap, I've got to have to redraw that, and that means that this layer here is just has no history to it. And then by mistake, I've just deleted the actual path I was using there, which is another issue with using paths. So you can quite easily, if you're not paying attention, delete the path because it was active. So you have to click off it to make it non-active. Click off the path layer before you hit delete to delete the layer. Otherwise you end up losing your paths. So I find personally, paths panel and pen set to path is an absolute ball ache. Pain in the arse. So I don't do that. It's laborious, it's time consuming, it's the old way of doing it. Shape is the way I do it. If you use Illustrator, then you'd be familiar with the way this works. So as I create with my pen tool, it creates a shape layer, which has got this little symbol on the layer, so you know it's just a vector layer. And then I can just update that on the fly, and it always updates. And I don't have to use my path, whatever. If I want to select that area to draw in, you can control or command click on that icon and it will select it. you can then do a new raster layer and it will draw within that. So that's all fine. So if you still want to use the old way of doing it, but what's the point? You might as well just do a fill. So you might as well go to that shape that you've just created, change the stroke, put a fill in it, and then when you drag that around, it all updates, and you can do that all day long. Plus, because it's vector, the file size is smaller, because that gradient in there is technically a mathematical calculation the program's doing. It's not actually saving pixels. So Photoshop creates massive files because it has to save information for every pixel of every layer. But a vector is like it's mathematically based or something. So yeah. So there's a brief description and intro as to why I use vector workflow within Photoshop. Let's just set my thing back to dithered. Why is that not dithered? I'm going to change my mode to, oh, it's already on 16-bit. Okay. So when I zoom in, it gets all grainy again. You get the banding in it. Irritating, but anyway. So yeah, I'll just path out that. Just get rid of the stroke. I'll make it a gradient. And I want this to be like a, not chrome, maybe an aluminium sort of finish. So for now, I'll just mess around with the gradient tool. Go away. And make it a base colour, essentially. A flat colour of aluminium. Or whatever you want it to be for now. We'll go back and change it if need be. And again, I'm using convert point tool. If I forget what tool I'm using, you see it flashing up down here. So just real quick, path that out. And then I can always come back in. So I've just pressed A, which brings up this tool for selecting, and then a command click flicks between the two, white and black, which is direct selection and path selection tool. So I don't have to keep going over here. So I'll do that a lot without actually saying what I'm doing. So in case you're wondering what tool I'm using to adjust it and pick it and move it and so on. So just to be clear, convert point tool allows you to adjust the handles. And so if I click on here with the convert point tool, it goes back to being just a sharp positional. Then I can click and drag. If I click on one side, it will do that. Click on that again. I can reset, click and hold and remove. If I use the direct selection tool, it will select one of these points at a time. If I select the path tool, the black one, it selects the whole path. But the white one selects individual points. So you can move the point, you can pull these and it maintains the curvature between the two of them. You can scale them individually. So a combination between these two and this one generally is what I use. If I need to add a point for any reason, you can either use this tool, or when you actually press the pen tool and hover over the line, you see a little plus comes up. So you can just add a point anyway with the normal pen tool. You don't have to use these. And then if you've got the normal pen tool, you see if you hover over an existing point, the minus sign comes up, so you can delete. But anyway, so in terms of the language and the form and shape of this foot, I'll end up refining as I go with the rendering, because as of yet, I've not decided what looks best. It's a process, so we'll just see how we go. So all I'm concerned about at the very minute is the proportions and the quality of the line. So the minute that was like that, which means you get like a wobble in the surface. I mean, you're talking like a pixel out or something, but so this one here is pointing to this side of the line, and this one down here isn't. So within that line, you probably can't see it on YouTube, but within that line, there's not much tension in that surface. So I want to try and get the tension just right, which means basically lining them up. Which means it's almost a dead straight line basically. And it just makes it nice form, shape, automotive torque basically. And it's the difference between a really nice leg and a terrible looking leg. And even though I've sketched this, like I'm looking at the now thinking that the proportion of that leg is a bit thick, it's a bit on the wide side without even adding any form, because there's going to be a top edge to that as well as a thickness, but even so it still feels, at the minute it feels a bit wide. So I'm going to pull this in quite a bit. So I want something that looks really elegant but like strong and dynamic at the same time. And it might be even a case of what I'm doing now is just adjusting the angle and the taper. So they're not parallel, and that's intentional. And then once I put the shadow on, it'll kind of hopefully help ground it. So like here, in that particular viewpoint where I'm looking at that, that's almost what you're reading thickness in Z, as in up, depending on what you're modelling. Sometimes Y is up, but why I do it is Z is up. So you're not necessarily reading the top surface of that. That's kind of almost the thickness. So, and it'll make more sense once I finish rendering it, and you'll see how I render it in this particular view. But in that case, anyway, I'll kind of want to make that a lot thinner. Otherwise, it just looks too chunky. It's too much weight to it. And I'll pull this around. And this is the beauty of Photoshop. You can sketch all day long, but when it comes to refining the proportions and shape of something, it's this where it just makes so much sense to render something. Because I could have just gone and taken this sketch and tried to model it in the computer, in whatever modelling program you want to use. But without refining all these little details first, I'll just end up modelling what I can see in that sketch. And it's subjective. Everyone's got an opinion. Not everyone agrees, but it's worth spending time refining all this sort of stuff because it makes a big difference. Okay. So when I'm doing it, I'm just thinking about how that surface, what direction that surface is facing as I'm sorting out the way that angle of that end of that foot, because the foot isn't facing this way. Sorry, I need a rest away to draw an arrow. Yeah, that'll do. So that edge of that foot there is facing this way, and the perspective of the seat is kind of doing this sort of thing. If that helps. So like that front face, that leading edge of that foot isn't facing this way with the perspective. So if I was looking like plan view down, say if the front of the chair's doing something like this, if this is top view, and there's a split in the middle, the foot is facing this way of the leg. It's not facing forward. So with this foot, it's facing this way. And also I need to check like where that is. So I think that this actually needs to move slightly further forward anyway. But in terms of like, once there's a material thickness on there, you've got the top surface, but the actual leading edge of the foot, the mirror opposite this line here, it's facing that way. Hence why you get this weird look to it at now, but it'll make more sense once it's all rendered. But that definitely needs to move further forward. And then once I've put the material thickness on there, that will thin that out quite a lot. But we can come back to that, it doesn't matter. So, okay. I'm just going to duplicate that whole layer because there's no point pathing the whole thing out all over again. And I'm just going to move it up slightly, and then I'll go around and adjust it accordingly. But I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to double click on the layer below, the first layer I created, and I'm just going to reverse the gradient direction. Then instantly it's giving me a shadow or a change in tone on that surface. But now I need to actually go around and adjust all of this. But before I do all of that, I'm going to just do right click, create clipping mask. So now that only shows pixels based on this layer below. So based on, if I colour that orange. So this top layer I can move around, but it'll only show up based on the pixels below. Now I'll go around and I'll just adjust all these lines to create the top surface of the foot, of the leg. Not the foot, the whole leg, but hopefully you know what I'm on about. Hopefully. Okay. And just adjusting the radiuses. So it's almost like an offset of the larger radius, so it's going to be smaller anyway. But I don't want that to be like a perfectly radded or chamfered or whatever. I want it to kind of almost be almost like the back of an iPad. So I'm just going to go to the properties of that layer, which you'll get Windows properties. I'm going to feather that vector layer basically, and that softens it off. Zoom in, you can see it's kind of, it gives you like a radius almost, provided your colour's right in the first place. So let's just make that darker. And I want the top surface to be lighter. So it actually looks like it's facing upwards. So that's basically base layer, nothing more. So now, just to give us a bit of context now, rather than it just floating in space, let's just put a shadow to these legs. But the shadow is also going to include the seat itself, because that's obviously going to cast a shadow of some form. And Just thinking what if I'm doing what I'm doing is right or not. So bear with me a minute while I work this out. That should kind of be right, kind of. Okay. We can always come back to this and change all this, so as the rendering develops it will make more sense. I'm going to put that on multiply so it picks up the background colour. I kind of feel like that needs to be much further in. Needs to echo the shape of the seat more. Which then means that this one isn't technically correct. So let's pull this one. Pull that right in. Let's pull that up as well. We can tweak that as we go along, so I'm not too bothered about that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate that. And one of them I'm going to feather quite a bit, like heavily. Maybe not that heavily. Yes, maybe more. But I'm going to turn down the opacity quite a bit on that. Then the next one, I'm going to convert it to a smart object. I'm going to do a Gaussian blur very slightly. Then I'm going to do motion blur as well, kind of roughly. And then on the landmass that it's created, it's going to get a black airbrush and just tighten that front shadow area back up a little bit. So I'm just flicking between black and white on the layer mask, which is this layer here. And I'm going to adjust the opacity on that as well. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. It's looking a bit messy at the minute, but it'll make sense in a minute. Give it a little bit of love. There we go. Something like that will do for now. Maybe turn off the gassing. Motion blur. And what I'll do, I'll tone down the motion blur just a tad. I'll leave that like that for now. So now we've got the shadow done, I'm just going to turn that off for a bit. Turn off the seat itself. And then on the top layer, now I'm just going to path out the seat. But as you'll notice that I'm not sticking to this line here because I'm adding the material thickness of the foam. Again, that will make more sense later on. So I'm going to stop short of that line, but echo that line, basically. Actually, no, I'm not doing that right. Because I've allowed it from the other side of the line. So I do want to stick close to that line. So ignore that. And then you can see there's a line there that's the material thickness. So and I'm going to do this in the 2 halves because it's split down its length. Blah blah blah. So there's the near side. Underneath that layer, I'll do the far side. Again, just doing it really quickly without worrying about the ragged areas. Just straight to the point, literally. So now one's on top of the other. I'll just make that see-through. Yeah, I'll leave it like that so you can actually see. And then just go around and tweak and refine all those lines because the sketch itself is never going to be perfect. That's the whole point of things like Photoshop. So I'll go around, add some curvature, and then we'll come back and tweak everything to make it exactly how we want it. Okay, so kind of get in there. And as always, default magenta. Next one. turn off, turn off. So we're effectively doing the base layer to the whole seat. Then we'll add the form on top of that. So and I may need some more points there in and around this area here. Or might not actually. Might be, yeah, I'll need another one here. I try to do it with as few points as possible so you get nice clean lines. And I always tend to do the points before the rads. So before a bend, I try to do the points and let the what they're called, yeah, convert point handles, something along those lines. Anyway, I try to let them do all the work for the radiuses. So I try to avoid putting like a point on here on the corner. Kind of feels okay. So the tricky part now of doing something like a soft furnishing is getting the volume right. So I'm going to copy shape, paste shape, and now what I need to do now is I need to do the material thickness now. So I've got to do the top face as it goes all the way around the seat. So with the back edge, the far side, it's pretty easy. I can just drag that, make it slightly bigger, maybe free transform it, just Control T or Command T, depending on what operating system you've got. Then I'm holding Command PC to control, and it's kind of deforming that point. You can pull the corner as well, which makes it quite easy to adjust. Pull this bit up before I even bother trying to adjust all the lines. But I still want to see the edge where the fabric rolls around the edge. So I do need to go around and properly sort this out rather than just bashing it in. And it's just a case of keeping the thickness of that edge consistent all the way around. That gives that perceived quality to the rendering. It's all about consistency. Okay, so that's kind of looking okay. But now I need to do the actual edge here as well, so that needs to pull in quite a bit, as you're going to see that the way you're looking at it. Put it down here somewhere. Get rid of that one. Oops. Again, just still same thing, going around, adjusting all this. So it feels like an offset of the main cushion. That kind of feels good for now. Apart from this bit down here. Yeah, kind of feels alright. Let's just turn those off and they do the other side. So now I'm doing the face of the seat that you can see here. There's a few ways of doing this. I could either do that actual face there or could do the back side of the seat. But because you've got the back side of the seat here, plus the rolled edge, plus the front face of the seat, it's going to be a combination of all three, really, to be honest. So what I'm going to do is go beyond the entire seat to about there, and come all the way around here. And again, this I'll refine in a minute. If I need to lose a point or two, that's fine, I can do that. I'm just going to right click, create clipping mask. And now I can refine this to match the base of the seat, but can also it will create this front face that you were sitting on for me, all in this one layer. So again, it's just a case of going around and tweaking, making sure the proportions and the forms are just right and relative to the perspective that you're viewing it in as well. Consistency is key. Okay, so almost there. trying to be as accurate as I can with the pen tool, because it may seem tedious doing it now, but it's so worth it when it comes to the finished result. Okay, so at the minute it's got the same layer property as the one it's clipped to. But if I just open the gradient by double clicking, and just with this window open I can just move the mouse around and you can see that gradient moving. So without even using the brush yet, you start to get an idea for the form. And then let's put these back up to 100%. Just lost a bit of the shape in the back of that. And now I'm going to do the other side to this, so the down here basically. And it will just suddenly give me the form to that seat. So again, I can kind of move this to the dark side. Press that on the keyboard to get my selection tool. And I kind of want another point in here because I want a bit of almost drop shadow to, and I'm going to put another one in and just pull that one out of the way. So this one's free to move. So I'm just going to create the shadow as it wraps around the bottom. It'll be a harsh shadow for now, but as soon as I feather that, it'll soften up. But it means that you get to see the form of the seat rolling around. And it'll make all the difference. Trust me. And because these are all shape layers, if none of them are perfect right now, we can just come back and tweak them endlessly until they are right, or until at least that you're happy with them. And the same as what I did down the bottom, I'm going to do the same up here. So you get the feeling of it rolling around the surface. So it doesn't quite look so flat. So you can just about see like bright, mid and slightly darker. I don't know if you'll see that on YouTube or not. You see more here, 3 different shades, but it's quite difficult to see down here at the minute as it is. But we can change that and tweak that, it's not an issue. Just tweaking that line a little bit more. And then just going to tweak the other side to that cushion slightly. maybe pull this up a bit. And then the actual line of the actual base layer, just adjust that slightly, very, very slightly, because it's slightly out here. So that's starting to resemble the seat. And let's just whack these on full opacity, reverse that one, and straight away just feel like I want to tweak that a little bit. Just tweaking the lead in and lead out of these curves as they go around the edge of the seat, and it's all basically to adjust the part of the seat that you're actually able to see within this perspective. So you're going to see this edge here, but it's going to disappear as it rolls around this edge, hence why it's got a lot thinner here, but then it comes back again here, and so on and so on. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to reverse that layer compared to that one. That's better. So if I bring back the legs, it's kind of at this point now I can kind of just stop referring to the sketch now. And I might even just grab an ellipse. So I'll just press U on my keyboard to do this tool. So I'm going to grab an ellipse. I'm just going to pull that around slightly. This is basically just going to be like an ambient shadow on the floor from the cast by the seat. So again, I can change this endlessly if I want. Let's pick the darkest side of the floor. I'm going to feather it quite a bit. Hopefully that should might make it a tad darker. There we go. Okay, so now I could start to just properly do some airbrushing now. Now the fundamentals are there. So I want this to be quite a soft fabric because it's a chair for obvious reasons. So I want to feather that harsh line out basically on all the so just by dragging that you can see how it's softening off that edge, which makes it look like it's a rolled edge. I'll tweak the colours in a bit to help up here compared to down here, but for now let's just sort out the softness of those. So the top one is facing the light, say the light's coming down this way because of the shadow. So I want that to be the lightest, but I want my magenta to be the lightest colour, so I'll make everything darker than that, but I just want to make that face consistently brighter than the other ones. But because that's a top one and that's its counterpart on the other side, I'm going to right click, copy shape attributes, paste shape attributes. So I know that these two layers on top, these two are the same now. Except for that one's not reversed, whereas that one's not either. That hasn't copied that. Oh, it has. It's just this part up here feels quite dark still, so I'm going to tweak that again. So because it's going from light to grey, it's gradually changing colour right to this end. So just by clicking on here, so it's highlighted. And I'm just using the droplet to kind of pick up the colour within that gradient to gradually make that lighter, but not be as light as the lightest side down here. This one down here is kind of, maybe you want to make it a little bit darker for contrast reasons going around the corner. So I'm just going to grab that and just going to pull down a little bit, not too much, and then keep clicking until that kind of looks about right for the underside down here. And then I want the base layer of this, so the part that you can see in between these two layers, that edge kind of needs to be a bit brighter because that's facing the light. So on that base layer, which is visible, I'm going to make that dark one slightly lighter, and you can see, but I don't want it so light that you can't see the difference between those two. So up here kind of feels okay, and you're losing it a bit down here, but then for artistic reasons, what I'll do, I'll start to add some value in between these layers. So on top of this layer, I'm just going to add a bit of shadow. So to do that, I'm going to use the layer I used to create that shape. So I'm going to Command or Control click on the layer so it selects that vector layer. Then I'm going to do a new layer, get an airbrush now, and I'm going to start airbrushing everything. And I'm just going to use a grey, a mid-grey. And if you've never used Photoshop before, it'll all make sense in a minute. I'm just going to airbrush with a soft opacity and flow. Right click on the brush, hardness set to 0, quite a large size. I'm going to actually tweak the profile of that brush, just a standard brush, and I'm just pulling that so it's more elliptical. And I'm just going to hint at the surface of that bolster to the seat. It's casting a slight shadow on the top surface of the seat that you're sitting on. So then because that's not set to the clipping mask of that layer, I'll then just right click, create clipping mask. And then you'll see that those pixels have just suddenly disappeared. That's what we want. So then click on multiply. So then multiply has just added in that for me. Now the difficult thing is now I need to add at the minute I've done that. The way I've done that, I'm thinking I've done that wrong, because the way I've done that is going to be a really harsh edge, and because this is a soft piece of fabric going all the way around, I don't actually want that. I want that to be quite soft. So I'm going to delete that layer, and this time I'm just going to use the airbrush, but I'm going to go all over the actual edge of the seat, and this will make more sense in a minute as to why I'm doing this. So again, just where I'd literally see the edge of the seat. Just adding a bit of value to the magenta on the top face. I hope that makes sense the way I've described that. So I'm going to do a clipping mask. So it clips to the seat. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to Control or Command click on that layer. And then, so that was on the shape layer I clicked. Now on the layer that I've drawn, layer 3, which is the grey airbrush layer, I'm going to go down to here, which is the layer mask, add layer mask. Click on that. Again, it's giving me that sharp edge, but I can go into the properties of that layer mask. So the layer mask has used the vector path to basically show or hide. So I'm going to go into the properties of that layer mask. So if you click on that mask and then click on properties, and I'm going to feather the actual layer mask. So that's going to soften the edge of the actual mask that's hiding or showing those grey pixels. So if I zoom in now, you can see it's properly softened off all of that. So if I do that, we'll put it back down to 0, harsh edge. But because I'm feathering, because there's grey pixels there to reveal, so there's the original grey pixels. Shift click on the layer mask and it will turn it on and off. It means there's pixels there for it to reveal. And if you wanted to manually paint on the layer mask, as previous tutorials, paint black on white on the selected layer mask, and you can hide or reveal the grey pixels of that layer. So you're not using your erase tool, you're not deleting any pixels, you're just hiding them. That's all a layer mask does. So I can click on this grey layer now. So the grey layer selected that I've done, and I can go around the edge of this seat. I can just add a bit of form to where the light is rolling around the edge of that. So I'm just going to continue doing that over there. Once you're happy with it, I'm going to go back to that layer mask and I'm just going to feather it a little bit more. And now I'm going to set that grey layer to multiply. And then on this layer mask, I'm now going to paint black where I don't want there to be any pixels showing, but I'm going to do quite a faint opacity. So it's going to take a few passes with the airbrush to hide or reveal. Because although this is kind of gives the impression of that rolled edge, this surface is still being caught by light because the light's still shining on it. So like here, for example, just kind of want to knock that shadow back a little bit. It's purely for artistic license to show the difference of that edge and that edge going around the corner. But I think that will do that nicely. Now between these two layers, so between the top and the bottom layer, that edge now, I'm going to draw some form into these wings. So underneath those two shape layers, because they're currently set to normal, so they don't show any transparency or anything. So again, you're going to use the grey. just to add some value and shape. To these bits. It's really subtle. So that's multiply, but much, turn down the opacity quite a bit. So it's just a little hint of shadow where that surface dropped down. And then on top of that, I'll do some highlights. So I'll grab the magenta colour. So anywhere facing the light, I'm just going to paint in. And that should hopefully make a nice difference to that. But I'm going to play around with the layer setting for that. So I'm going to put it try screen. Nope. They're on clicking and drag, clicking and pointing on these. It's different on Windows. You can just cycle with the arrow keys on Windows, but you can't on a Mac. But for both Windows and Mac, if you press V, so you're on your move tool, now press Shift plus or Shift minus, it will cycle through these, so you don't have to keep clicking on it. And then I'm just going to go through these until I find one that kind of gives me the right sort of highlight. So that's linear, that's lighter colour. Linear dodge is a bit weird. Colour dodge is slightly too purpley pink, it's not quite magenta. Screen and lighten are sort of okay. I think I'll go with lighten because that's quite soft. And then I'll do that same thing again. So I might even make the magenta actually lighter in colour. And then again, I'm just cycling through these. So it's Shift plus and minus, but it only seems to work when you're on the move tool. Okay, it does work on all the tools, but not all tools work. I don't know why. Anyway. So I think I've got to go lighten again. Okay, that seems to do the job. Now what I'm going to try and do is one more, but I'll do it with an actual white. See what effect I get for that. And this is purely hotspot. And again, I'm just going to cycle through those. And it's probably going to be overlay. But it's still a bit too pink. So I'm going to not bother with that. I'll try a slightly darker one. Let's just cycle through these again, see what comes up the best. So lighter colour and a slightly darker magenta kind of gives a nice soft colour to it. Soft light seems to look quite nice. So next bit now, I'm going to leave all that for now. So all of that, do red. That's the near side. Actually, the one thing I need to do actually, above this layer, I need to add some form to the back side of the seat. So I'm going to grab a grey brush. So all of that is just going to be in shadow. Set that to multiply. And I'm going to build this up out of a few layers to give just the right effects. But I'm also going to select that and then use that as a layer mask because I don't want it to come over the top of that edge. And then I'll feather the layer mask in the property panel. But what that layer mask is doing, I've used this layer, so I've used that path to mask that layer I've just airbrushed, but I'm just leaving that edge of that seat exposed. So I've set that to multiply, but it's set down quite a bit in opacity. And then I'm just going to do another layer, smaller brush, further down, but more concentrated down here. So I'm gradually building up the tonal value as its shadows being cast around the backside of the seat, because the seat's got curvature to it, so it's gradually going to get darker as it goes around. Then again, I'll just cycle through these down to multiply. That's kind of nice, it's feeling kind of good. Then back to the far side now, just doing this side. I've only got the top and the bottom, that's all I really need. So I'm just going to go around with that grey airbrush and just do the rolled edge. Again with an airbrush, nice and soft. I'm just going to add in that form to the edge of that seat. And then I'm going to add it so it's underneath here as well, the underside of there. And maybe just on that bit there. Again, cycle through to multiply. That feels quite nice. I might do one more. Again, using a smaller brush. Just where it'd be slightly darker. So now I'm going to go around the whole thing again, just certain areas. Okay, I've kind of gone around the whole area again. Set to multiply. And boom. So what I might do now is just add some highlights to the top face of the seat. Just the ones that are directly in the light. which is pretty much most of the seat, to be honest, but soft light seems to work quite well. But I'm just going to tone it down quite a lot. And make sure that's on the clipping mask. But I'm going to use the layer mask. So I'll Command or Control click on the layer you want to use as the mask, so the path in this case, or the shape layer. Then on the layer that you want to mask, again, press the layer mask. And it will do that for you. You can invert that as well. You can Control I or Command I when you got it selected, and it will flip it black to white. And I'm going to do the same on this bit. So I'm going to Command, I'm just going to do a new layer. So new layer. Grab that white again. I'm going to come down that inside edge and on this bit here. Then I Command click or Control click on that shape layer there. Then when the dotted line's there again, press layer mask at the bottom down here. And then I can make sure that's clipping mask to the layers below. Go into the properties of the layer mask. Just feather that a little bit. Then I'll set that to soft light. Turn that down. And then on that layer mask, I'm just going to add some additional painting in with a black airbrush, just to bring that cast shadow back from before. So that's pretty much most of that seat done, but what we'll kind of want to do now, kind of want to add some stitch lines all the way around there. So I'm going to grab this side first. I'm just going to drag that Alt, I'm holding Alt and I'm just going to drag that layer, and it creates a duplicate of that layer. Don't need it to be fill anymore, but I want a stroke, so I'm going to go with grey for now. And I'm going to change this to 1 maybe. But also that this properties of this layer are probably feathered, so I just want to turn that feather off to 0. So now I've got a solid stroke. Now in terms of stitching, that's still too big, so I'm going to do 0.5 of a point. If you right click on there, you can do pixels or centimeters, but I always have it on points because I'm used to using vectors, so by default you can do pixels or whatever. And now I'm going to, in this menu here, I'm going to select that one, but I'm just going to tweak it slightly. So I'm going to add rounded edges, and under more options I'm going to increase the gap so it's the same as the stitch, and I think that kind of looks okay. Going around there, scale wise, I mean it might be a bit big. Let's try a stitch of 3 with a gap of 3. Probably feels better. And if I just do clipping mask again, it'll get rid of all this for me, but it's still there, it's just hidden. And so that gives me an actual threaded line. But what I want to do where the stitching of where the fabric is pulled in, create a shadow. So I want to put this back to a solid line. It does multiply, but I'm going to change that line so it's not on the inside, it's not on the middle, it's on the outside. So without even adjusting the path, it's already given me the opposite to the stitch line, but I do want a bit of space in between the stitches and that. And this will all make sense in a minute. So this I'm going to set to multiply, but I'm going to feather it slightly as well, just so it's quite soft. And basically it's the seam of the fabric. And then I'm going to duplicate it, so hold Alt and drag. But this time I'm going to change the direction again to the opposite side. And I'm going to make it white. And I'm going to set it to something like an overlay so it's quite obvious. And I always tend to put the overlay underneath the black. Turn this feather down slightly, it's a bit too feathered. So now going back to the actual stitching, maybe I want the stitching to be on that side, maybe. I don't know, it's up to you. Do whatever you want to do, but I think I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to go around and adjust wherever needs adjusting. One thing I do think is the stitches are still too big in scale to the seat. Stitches aren't that thick or big, so I'm going to scale them down in a minute. And then we'll just bring that around here. So I'm going to change that to 0.3. I think that feels better already. Yeah. So that's the seam going all the way around. 3 layers. Jobs are good. But what I'm going to also add to this, rather than that just being a flat grey, I'm going to double click on that layer to bring up the layer style options. I'm going to bevel emboss, and I'm going to do the white to overlay. I'm going to change the angle of the light so it's a similar direction to the seat. Then I'm going to make that slightly darker, and because the pixels, there's so few pixels there, it's hard to see a difference, to be honest. But so that's kind of given a bit of tonal to those pixels to give the impression of the roundness of the thread. I'm also going to do a drop shadow. The drop shadow, the distance I'll probably keep to 1, and I'll probably leave it at that. Probably spread. I might even go white on that stroke, just purely for contrast. Oh, that looks quite cool. So that's that seat done. Let's do the far side. So I'm going to take this top layer. Is it the top I want to use? No. I'll take the top layer to use, but it's going to be like down here. So I'll have to adjust that layer basically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the stitching layer, and I'm going to right click, copy layer style, and then I'm going to right click, copy shape attributes. Go and put to layer for this one, and I'm going to copy and paste both of those onto there. And what is that? Oh, That's odd. That is strange. Where's it gone? It's on the top of that. So I'm trying to work out where that layer's gone. It's there. It's 100% opacity. Oh, it's feathered. That's why. There we go. So I've got volume on that seat and the stitching's on the outer edge. So that stitching, this is where we need to adjust this layer now. That stitching's going to be down here, and it's going to disappear around this corner. Like so. And down here it's going to be halfway around the cushion. I'll just adjust those points accordingly. And up here it's kind of gone around the back edge, so it's going to be down here somewhere. And then you might catch a glimpse of it coming around this edge. But it might literally just be the thread coming beyond on top of the actual cushion. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just do a layer mask, and I'm just going to make a really harsh 100% opacity brush. I'm just going to paint out with the layer mask where I'm not going to see those stitches. So as it just disappears back around that back edge. Let's go back on that layer mask with the white and just painting the rest of these that have gone on there. And then flip that back to a black and just get rid of that. Alright. This needs a bit of tweaking though down here. That looks good. So now we're just going to duplicate that layer again, but this time I'm going to just clear layer styles and just get rid of the delete layer mask. Actually no, I only want to keep that. And I'm just going to make one of them black. And the seam is on the outside edge, so it's below the stitch. And that's solid. Again, I just want to adjust that to be representative of where that stitch would be in relation to that seam. And then on this particular one, you're not going to see it at all down here, so just get rid of that. And then I'm also going to feather it very slightly, and then duplicate, make the bottom one the white one, just move that slightly, and then set that to overlay. Again, I'll have to come in here manually and just tweak that. Then going back into that layer mask and just kind of hide that. Select all three of those. All three parts. No, just the two of the seam, not the stitch, but the seams. Create the clipping mask. Otherwise, it will get rid of that. Was it? No, I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to select a soft airbrush. Going back onto the stitching layer mask, just soften off where that goes around there. So it's not quite so harsh. Then I need to go to textures. Textures. I need to find a fabric of some form. So I'm just going to cycle through these until I find a fabric. That's got so much tone value in it. These are all stuff I've got from 3D Artist magazine over the years. So I'm just going to try and find a fabric. I'm sure I've got like a linen or something somewhere. So there's leather I could use as a pattern. But I don't want to do a leather suit. Perforated? Nah, perforated's not really fabric. Keep going, come on. I find it's always good to build these materials up over the years. Okay, there we go, that's what I want. White canvas fabric. That one there. So I drag that out into here. Boom. And I'm going to scale that down so I can best fit on the seat. So we've got one for each seat section. Just make that clipping mask. And then I'll just set that to, we'll try overlay, see what that looks like. The problem is that it's gone like super vivid pink, so maybe not. Screen does absolutely not. We'll try multiply because it'll make it transparent and white. Yeah, there we go. It's better. And then I'll do the same thing for this one. Literally. because that's coming as a smart object, what I might do is I might tweak the value between those to get rid of more white, I think. If I double click on that layer, I'm just going to do a levels adjustment layer. I'm just going to pull the grey up, but pull the white down. So by the time I put it on multiply, all the white areas will disappear. There's quite a lot of yellow in there actually. So I'm just going to do an adjustment layer on the hue saturation, and I'm just going to desaturate the whole thing. So it's got rid of all that yellowness to it. I think we'll bring some of that white back. Can't find the original double, blah blah blah, flatten the layer. Oh, I have to flatten the layer. Right, okay, whatever. Duplicate. Get rid, do save. Now I'll convert that to a smart object. Okay. Turn that one off. So hopefully this might work slightly better, hopefully. So back to multiply. I'm just going to duplicate that. Set it to that one as well. Yeah, I think that's better. We can also get rid of the sketch, which is still turned on for some reason. Don't need that anymore. So that's the seat fabric frame area done. Let's go back to the legs and finish off detailing those legs. So I'm just going to airbrush this. Set that to multiply. So I'm just airbrushing in between the base layer and the one on top. So it's just going to reveal the edges basically. Just airbrushing in some value for in and around here. Same on that side. Then I'm going to do pure white. And this is going to be like a harsh reflection. And when that gets out of the shadow, somewhere down there somewhere. And then that one's going to be out of the shadow as well. Just going to get a layer mask to tidy that up. So I'm not erasing, I'm just hiding with a layer mask. And just by adding that really harsh edge, it makes it look more reflective, basically. But I'm just freestyling it with the airbrush and just penning and pathing out. Okay, so that's kind of looking okay. I mean, maybe that actually wants to be further down. So light cast by that. Same for the rear leg. Again, there's a shadow cast by the seat, blocking the highlight, getting onto the actual material. And then I'm just going to turn down the opacity slightly on that. I'm going to do another layer. This time it's going to be quite a dark grey. And that's going to be a shadow cast by the seat. So I've done, but the shadow needs to follow the form of the actual leg. So I'll give the impression of the shadow bending over that surface. It needs to be further down, I think. Again, same down here. Oops. Too much of a sharp corner. There we go, it's better. So let's multiply. Great clipping mask. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a layer mask, and I'm going to use a really soft brush, really low opacity, low flow, and make it quite round. Quite a large brush as well, and just gradually airbrush away that harsh edge there. So you still see the harsh edge, but the shadow's getting softer because the shadow's kind of light decay in the shadow, basically. And then I'm going to do another one, but this time rather than using a harsh grey, I'm going to use a soft grey, so the same airbrush that I've just used to mask off, and that's just going to give me a really soft shadow on top of a really harsh shadow. And the effect of that is hopefully it's something that starts to look quite cool, hopefully. And then I'm just going to do another fairly harsh, not completely harsh, but fairly harsh, another layer that's just literally within here. Put that and multiply again. Just building it all up. Make sure these are all clipping masked to the leg. And then on top of that, because I've got a magenta seat and this is a reflective material, I need to add the magenta reflections. So over the top of everything, I'm just going to basically airbrush some magenta all the way around the surfaces that are facing up towards the seat. And hopefully when I change the layer style, it'll pick up the dark shadow areas and the white highlight. And the same goes on for this one as well. So create a clip mask, and cycle through the layer styles until we kind of get something that looks kind of cool. So it's kind of going to be an overlay, I think. I'm just going to use a soft black to soften off that magenta. I'm going to same with the greys. I'm going to build this up slowly with a few layers, just to get the best possible effect. And feels like that's a better layer. Yeah, so to clipping mask. Turn that down a bit as well. And then on top of all this, I'm going to grab the base layer, bring that to the top, flat grey. I'm going to go filter, add noise, convert it to a smart object, and then add some noise, very small amount. So zoom in, see that, set that to overlay. Let's try a few different layer styles, see what looks best. Ooh, do we do that? Oh, I don't know. It's a soft look. Hard light. So I'm just trying to find a nice metallic noise. I think it's probably going to be overlay, I think. But also with the feet on a new layer, just grab the airbrush and I'll grab a grey. Just going to airbrush in the shadow around the foot. So it's a bit too flat at the minute, the way I've done that. Bring that up. So there needs to be a bit of tone to the underside of that leg as well. Where's that white layer? It's that one. Just going to move those white pixels slightly, and then on that layer mask I'm going to just tidy up this bottom edge. And the airbrush is really low, no one will quite see it. So I'm just going to make sure that the underside where the leg rolls around in its profile is facing down, so it's got to reflect the floor, and what happens to be on the floor is a shadow that's cast by the leg. It's a vicious circle. So I'm just going to add the reflection of the shadow on the underside of the leg. Just do it on both sides. Oops. Artistic license, I'll even add it onto the far side of the leg, because otherwise that just feels like super harsh and flat. And then I'm going to go back to the seats as well, and I'm just going to add some more grey for one. Super soft. And then I'll put that on multiply. There's a bit more depth to that then. It's not quite so flat. There we go. Happy days. Alright, so I've done something on here. What is it? Where's that white layer? Right, get rid of that. So now also I want to just add a airbrushed version of that white, because it's a bit harsh and flat compared to the shadows. So in a second I'm just going to airbrush it out again. So I'm going to turn down the opacity very slightly, just to the point where you start to see the harsh highlight of the white below it. And I'm going to bring a little bit of definition back into that. Not too much though. Okay, that's kind of looking good. Kind of happy with that. And now I'm just going to drop in some nice decals. So company logo, standard, and oh, wrong one. I'm just going to emboss company name onto the top of one of the seat bolsters. Really small. In fact, actually no. I'll do it as a tag. So underneath that, I'll just do a little tag coming out of here. Probably do that grey. Yeah, that looks cool. A bit of breathing room for the text. I'll make the corners radded as well. So it's at this point now I could have stopped doing this ages ago, but I just got carried away. As always. And then I'm going to grab that fabric. So I just duplicated that fabric. I'm just going to scale it down massively. So it looks like a different scale, and I'll even rotate it so it's differently. I'll clip and mask that to there. Has that actually done anything? Yeah, it has. Maybe I've scaled it down too much, can't see anymore. Yep. Just a little bit more. Yep, I'll do. I'm going to duplicate the tag layer, and this time it's going to kind of snugly fit around the seat. And let's start to multiply. And then I'm just going to get a really small airbrush, and I'm just going to do a white line across there. That overlay. Do a slightly soft airbrush. The layer below the shadow, I'm going to actually feather that slightly, so it's not quite so harsh. I'll make it slightly lighter so it's not so black, so there's still a bit of fabric coming through there. I'm just going to tweak this line slightly. There we go, it's better. Jobs are good, and there we go. Save. Desktop. So iris ID chair. And while we're at it, why not make this a challenge? So let's do hashtag lounge chair challenge. And then with my tool, I'm going to change the colour of just one. Yep. I'll change the colour of the hashtag as well. Let's just check the spelling on that because my spelling is terrible. Oh, does it understand it? Right, ignore. Let me just check that. Bear with me a moment. Cool. So maybe we can get this started. Lounge chair challenge. Save. I'll put that on my Instagram. For those of you that don't know, my Instagram is Luke_Norman_Price. Cool, I'll leave it at that.